Welcome everybody, Neurotic Gamer, looking at Tomb Raider 2013. What I'm going to do today is just kind of go through the graphics options of the game and see what's going on as far as what was created by developers Nixxes, as far as you know, how well optimized it was for the PC as opposed to the console. So let's get right into here. Graphics options, you actually have quite a bit between basic and advanced. Compared to, say, like Assassin's Creed 3, which I have a huge issue with, for basically being ported over to the PC with only 5 graphics options. This one here, you can see they put a lot of effort into making things highly adjustable for people who are maybe not gaming on, you know, the most current PCs. The game is beautiful regardless. Doesn't really matter, you know, if you have it on low or if you have it. Obviously, it's going to make a difference on Ultimate, but, you know, even on low, there's a good-looking game there. So we're going to go through your basically obviously resolution, refresh rate, VSync. You have actually your off, double buffer, and triple buffer. Triple buffer, if you are using VSync, I think is the best option. What it does is just allows a few extra frames to be stored. That way, if you do lag behind in your frame rate, it kind of doesn't, it lessens the effect of a stutter or muddy feeling. Full screen you have on. And you also have an exclusive full screen, which gives you basically full screen as far as Tomb Raider is considered is windowed borderless, which means you're still in windowed mode except there are no borders. Exclusive full screen, if you turn that on, then you are getting the full screen, as what other games would call full screen experience. Display, obviously, 1 or more. Monitor aspect ratio, just leave it to auto. You can change that 16:9, 16:10. Whatever you are playing on. Quality, this is your presets. Quality goes all the way from low to normal to high, ultra, and ultimate. Then you have obviously your custom. If you get into advanced settings and make changes, you automatically change over to custom. Then you have your 3D settings, which I do not use, and your brightness. Now if we go under advanced, you have your quality again. You have your presets all the way from low, normal, high, ultra, ultimate, and custom. So basically, on my system, I would play on high to possibly ultra. Ultimate, I'm hearing even can bog down like a GTX 690, and the hardest core of hardware will have problems still with Ultimate with the way that the game is created or optimized and current driver situation, not even just NVIDIA's but ATI, AMD as well. So, you know, I usually will stick with high. I feel I can get away with comfortably, but I am an FPS guy. I like to have 60 steady. I don't want to dip below 60. I want to stay at 60. So I will sacrifice some graphic settings for that performance. But usually I'll go into custom and I'll move things around until I find a balance that will get me 60, but the best looking stuff. A lot of stuff that's handled, you know, by the GPU, you can crank and you're not going to notice any performance difference. Tomb Raider overall is a very, very high optimized GPU game. It's not a ton of CPU stuff going on as far as calculations, but everything pretty much relies on the GPU. So as you see, if you go above to Ultra and Ultimate, you're going to get a lot of pain on your card. And if you do have a 690 or, you know, high-end card, you're not going to have any issues with that. But I said even then can be kind of taxing from what I hear. I myself am only on a 660, so that's why I stick with high. So we'll go through here, and basically texture quality, obviously that's just going to give you better textures. You have from low all the way up to ultra. Texture filter, anisotropic, trilinear, bilinear, anisotropic 16 times. Usually not a big dip on performance with either of these settings, ultra or texture filter. I crank those, no issues. Here's the big one, and I'm sure if you played this game, if you have this game and you've been playing it on the PC, you've heard of the TressFX, which is an AMD owned performance thing, I guess you would call it. It's something that they created with the developers of Tomb Raider to kind of add to Laura's hair quality. Totally overrated as far as I'm concerned. I have turned it on. I have looked at it. Not a big deal, especially not worth the performance loss. You are going to, as far as I know, it's pretty standard across the board, especially with NVIDIA. You're going to lose like 30 FPS with this on. So, I mean, unless you're cranked up there and you're 100 FPS and you don't mind taking the hit, go ahead and use it. But it's pretty much the system hog at this point with this game. AA, obviously, you got FXAA, 2x SSAA, 4 times SSAA. I've been playing with it on FXAA, and then you have off, obviously. FXAA, I'm not a huge anti-aliasing guy. I don't see a lot of it. As long as I have some, I'm good. FXAA seems to be the newest technology with the least amount of impact on performance. So I usually will stick with FXAA, and that works for me. But if you're brave and you have the system that can handle it, 2 times or 4 times SSAA will give you a little better quality, and from what I understand, a little less blurring. FXAA uses kind of a lot of smoke and mirrors to get blurring. Use blurring to soften edges. With the other two, you might not get as much blurring. Shadows, obviously, you know what those are: off, normal, ultra. I did not see a big impact. Again, most of the stuff relies on GPU. I did not see a lot of performance impact, even with having this on ultra. A lot of games, I do end up having to maybe move shadows down just because it impacts performance, but in this game it doesn't really make a difference. Same thing with shadow resolution. The crispness of the shadows, low, normal, ultra, or high. I'll leave that on high. I don't see any performance. Here's the big one. For me, this is, and I think for most people, because it's not just, I am playing on somewhat of a lower end CPU, decent for gaming, but I mean, compared to like an i5 3570K or an i7, obviously nowhere near the performance that those are going to give, but I still expect, for gaming, it handles pretty well without getting bogged down. Level of detail is a huge one for me that is causing a lot of problems. If I put that down to medium, it actually runs from low, medium, normal, high, ultra. If I put that down to medium, I see decent performance more so. If I put on low, the pop-in is too much for me to deal with. But medium will give you a good balance of not having the pop-in and the performance. Anything above that, and I really start to see FPS drops, especially in the scene I'm about to show you, which is one of the documented areas where even the developers have taken notice that it's not performing the way it should, and they're planning on correcting it in another patch. There's maybe 3 areas that I found in the game that had the issue of just not really seeming optimized, and that has been documented by a lot of different people. Dark Side of Gaming's PC Performance Analysis mentioned it. They're running into the same thing. It's just 3 areas: the shantytown, mountain village, and the beach where you get the boat. Not to spoil things too much, but those 3 areas are kind of blatantly not optimized as well as they should be. Reflections off, normal or high, no impact there. Depth of field, which is actually if you've ever seen a movie, the way the camera might shift and the stuff in the foreground might get blurry or stuff in the background might get blurry. That's kind of what they're introducing in the games now. As far as I'm assuming it takes some of the performance hit off too. If you don't need to have textures in the background all rendered, it will shift and blur those out, or it could just be a stylized thing in some instances. And in this case, I don't even. It blends so well in this game, I don't think you even ever really realize it's happening. But really, no, I think NVIDIA users had a problem with that before they patched it. I haven't seen any kind of issue with that since then. SSAO, which is ambient occlusion, works fine in this as well. I've had no issue with having it on Ultra. No performance hit whatsoever. Post-processing, same thing. A lot of the glowing effects and lighting effects, no issues with those as far as performance. Tessellation, again, This is something a lot of NVIDIA users were having an issue with crashes. I don't know as much of a performance issue as far as FPS goes, or frame rate goes, but as far as crashing, there's something going on. Even since they've patched it and since NVIDIA has come up with their new drivers, still a lot of people are having problems with tessellation. So I think there's something a little more going on there as far as just the way that the game is operating with that. So it's if you're getting crashes, turn it off. You're not going to miss too much, but it does add a visual effect. But you know, it's not worth your game crashing 3 times an hour. High precision, I'm not even sure what that does, to tell you the truth. But having it on, haven't noticed any kind of performance issues besides maybe a like 2 or 3 FPS frame per second drop. So that's about it. And I will show you real quick just one of the, actually I'll go to high default. I will make sure TressFX is not on, which it's not, and I will turn tessellation off because I do not want to crash. And as you see here, as part of this, my level of detail is at high, which is, I wouldn't play, I'd bump it down to medium if I was actually playing. But this here is the mountain village. This is, it kind of reminds me of Assassin's Creed 3 when I was playing, and you know, everything was smooth in the ship, and everything is good when I'm playing as Kenway, and I get to Boston, and this is where everybody is complaining. And once you hit Boston, if you do have the frame rate issues, that's where you're first going to see it. It's like, man, the game was running so good, and then you hit that area, and boom, you're down to like 30 FPS, and it feels horrible. So this actually almost reminded me of that, except with this, if you go into your graphics options, you can change it down to a point where you can achieve 60 FPS. In Assassin's Creed 3, you can't even do that. So I will show you this right here. This area right here is the mountain village. And as you can see, my frame rate's down to about 30, dipping down in the 20s, but that's obviously, you know, recording is going to take a few off, but I mean, still, with the level of detail on high, it's cutting your frame rate in half for me. But this area right here, just looking up, and there's a lot going on, but looking up here is one of the areas where, you know, the frame rate's taking a hit. And like Dark Side of Gaming, in their performance analysis pointed out, there is little to no stress on your CPU or your GPU right now. Right now I'm at 44% usage. And I mean, that's not pushing it. If you were to look at the CPU, it's the same thing. The 4 cores, it's really not stressing anything at all. So obviously there's something with the game that means that instead of, you know, hardware ramping up to match this and to make this run smoothly, it's dropping the ball. And I mean, if you look out this way, you see my frame rate bumps right up to 60. Obviously, you look this way. Another telltale sign that I noticed, and it reminded me of things I've seen in other games too, is when you are off, if I were to go to the right from here, kind of go off doing something else, my frame rate will jump up. But if I look back at this area, even if there's a wall in front of me and there's nothing really for my system to render, to kind of process, it still will drop down to 30. That means that it's calculating things that it doesn't necessarily have to calculate, that are behind whatever I'm looking at, and that's part of the problem. I'm not technical with developing a game whatsoever, so I don't know how you avoid that, how you don't do that. But yeah, this is what I'm talking about. There's a couple more instances in the game where this does do this, and at least the developers do know that this is an issue. And as far as they're saying, they do plan on fixing it. So I will not be playing through the game again until they fix that, hopefully. And I do want to play through the game again. It's an awesome game, but you know, I'd rather just wait. I've already beat it once, so I'd wait until they fix that to do it again. All right. Hope you enjoyed it. Thanks for watching.